This is Andi Purewal for ID Boxing. I'm joined by Campbell Hatton out here in Abu Dhabi. Campbell, firstly, how is life? How are you?
Doing great, mate. Loving this. I've had worse fight weeks anyway.
I'm sure many people have as well. Obviously, I saw yourself and Matt enjoying some sunbathing downtime yesterday, and we had a little joke in terms of that's what he's resorting to make weight now, sunbathing in this heat.
Yeah, and I think me and Matt need the colour more than most people, to be fair.
Campbell, obviously, you've had quite an interesting career. You've performed on some big shows, you've had some big nights, and now you're out here in Abu Dhabi. Fight night hasn't come yet, but how do you feel like this event is holding up against some of those other nights you've had so far in an early start to your career?
Bit of a strange one, really, because even though it is a massive card and obviously it's one of the biggest I've boxed on and it's all new experience, it's probably one of the most relaxed I've been. And obviously we're chilling out round the pool, and I think it's perfect really for keeping the nerves, staying calm and saving everything for fight night, because it's like being on holiday. And obviously when we do our training, we get switched on and get in the fight mode, and that'll be the case on fight night as well. But just keeping nice and relaxed, and I think it's just going to benefit me come Saturday night.
It's obviously a different way of life, and you've just mentioned the benefits of having warm weather to be able to relax in your downtime, something we're not really accustomed to in the UK other than maybe 2 weeks a year. So does it make you maybe ever think about further down the line when you're further along with your career, potentially moving into a warmer climate? We see some fighters moving over to America to train, for example, Joe Joyce most recently.
Yeah, possibly. I think maybe any fights that I get like the back end of the year, like around winter time, it's well worth going abroad and doing like training camps there. Obviously, it's not only just the lifestyle and the pace of it that we've had this week, where it's just been really relaxed. Obviously, you pick illnesses up and things like that at the back end of the year. So if you're getting in that warmer climate, it's making that less likely as well. So yeah, I think that I'd definitely look at that.
Campbell, talk to me about kind of your career so far this year, rather. How would you reflect on your 2022?
Yeah, obviously the first year I was really busy. I had 7 fights in just over 12 months. Not quite as many this year. But again, every fight's been a valuable learning experience for me. I've boxed at the Manchester Arena for the first time in front of a crowd, getting a top experience out here on a massive card, boxed at the O2. So loads of massive experiences for me, and I think it's going to be the same again. I just want to show a few more improvements and a big jump up in class this time.
You said a big jump up in class. Just talk to me about your opponent and what your kind of knowledge is of him.
Yeah, from what we've seen, he seems to be quite strong. He's got quite a few stoppage wins, so we're expecting him to be quite heavy-handed. But it's a good opponent for me to show my boxing off and a more skillful side of my game, because I've started off in my last few fights where it's been clear to see I've made a big improvement, but I've gradually gone back to the old ways where I'd go for a bit too much volume instead of picking quality shots like I did in the first half of the fights, where my last one I started perfectly, it went exactly how we wanted, and then in the second half of the fight got a little bit high on my success and went back to like tear up mode. And I'm making a big conscious effort this fight to stay quite disciplined and concentrate a lot more and make sure I'm boxing for the full 6. And this opponent's quite an aggressive one come forward, and I think it's a good opportunity for me to do that.
People have obviously had a close eye and followed your career from the start because of your last name, Campbell, and what Matthew, your trainer and uncle, and obviously Ricky, your father, had achieved as well. How much has it played on your mind, if at all, in terms of having that added pressure and expectations placed upon your shoulders?
Again, it affected me quite a lot. I think subconsciously it did early on in my career, where I think with experience, I've gradually started getting used to it and learned how to deal with it a lot better, where I was just so eager to put in a top performance and was chasing stoppages for my first handful of fights, where I think with that I've sort of seen how it's been my own downfall and I've seen how it's affected my performances in a negative way, and I've gradually moved away from it a bit. I think since that night at Spurs, where that was the main fight, where it was clear to see that I was trying too hard and it was a little bit too much going on and we just need to relax a little bit. Since then, I've been like a completely different fighter, so I think it's just been a mindset change. But like I said before, I've still crept back a little bit, even since making them improvements. So going forward, I want to completely get rid of that now.
How much of a benefit for yourself, Campbell, has it been to be able to box kind of away from those big shows, i.e. like you've mentioned Spurs, amongst other venues that we touched on earlier? How much of a benefit do you feel that's been for your career? Yeah,
the big shows have been great for me. Obviously, boxing in front of that many people at Tottenham, I think there was about 50-odd thousand in there when I got in the ring, so I don't think, as far as an audience is concerned, there's not much tops that. So that's something I've been able to deal with now, early on in my career. So if I'm in that position again, I'm better equipped to deal with that. And again, on the other side, when I underperformed that night, we took it to a few smaller shows like the one in Bilbao and the Next Gen show in Sheffield, where I can really learn my trade without as many eyes on me. I think that was the turning point for me, where I have sort of switched that mindset, and I think it's just more of the same, just a good variation of the two.
Moving forward, Campbell, provided you have that success on Saturday night, have you spoken to Eddie about how you'd like your at least 2023 to line up, but is there any plans for you to maybe try and squeeze one more in, or do you think this very much will be your last outing of the year?
As long as if I come out of it unscathed, I'd be more than up to another one this year, hopefully. But like we say, we are pushing it now. It'll be obviously November the 5th, so there's not loads of time and not loads of shows coming up that I know of so far anyway. So sort of deal with that as we find out.
Campbell, just a few other topics to get your thoughts on before I let you shoot off. Just sticking with kind of Manchester, your father makes his ring return next week against Marco Antonio Barrera. Are you excited to see him back in the ring, or are you more so nervous?
I'm really excited. I thought I'd be a bit more nervous than I am, really. Obviously, I've got my fight to concentrate on first, but just seeing how he's prepared and how well he's looking and how sharp he's looked in his training and how sharp he was when we sparred. So that gives me a lot of confidence that he's going to do well, and just really looking forward to it.
I spoke to him about the sparring, it was a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him, did he try and kind of put it on you? And he suggested that you did. So can you kind of elaborate, when you two sparred, did you try and kind of take your dad's head off almost?
There was no punches pulled. I was trying to take his head off, and I got a few back as well. It was a really good spar, very competitive, and I think if you ask anyone who was there, you wouldn't have thought it was father and son sparring. But again, it was priceless experience for me. He's boxed at the top level, and so it's always a nice experience to give him a little crack in it.
Campbell, again, moving away from your father, sticking with that Manchester theme, though, Tyson Fury returns against Fury-Chisora at the Tottenham ground on December 3rd. Your thoughts, Campbell? Obviously not the fight that everybody wanted to see, but it is the one we will see come December 3rd.
Yeah, I was well, not shocked, but it was a bit of a letdown. We thought there's a possibility of getting AJ Fury on, and it turns out he's fighting Chisora again. And obviously we know Derek is an absolute warrior, and he'll always bring it. And it was just a bit disappointing, I think, because we've seen it already. Twice, and I think there's got to be more. There's got to be other fighters out there that he could have fought who we haven't already seen, especially with the first two being quite comfortable wins. And obviously he is an absolute warrior, Derek, but I think everyone sort of feels like they've seen it before. So if we're going to have this one, and then hopefully there's a big fight next year, isn't there?
Final one, Campbell. Obviously, Conor Benn, somebody you've built quite a close relationship with during your time in boxing. About a month or so ago now, he came out that he had failed at VADA testing, so when he's come back that he had 2 failed tests. I just want to get your thoughts on that entire situation, and somebody who you've built a close bond with. What did you make of that news when it broke, and how it's unfolded since?
Yeah, I was really shocked. I think how big the event was has made it such big news, hasn't it? Because it was probably one of the biggest shows in British boxing, and every man and his dog was talking about it. So, like, for it to be cancelled at such late notice, it was a big shame. But I think the right thing happened where the fight got pulled, because you see Chris down at that weight, and it's sort of like the picture of him looks like it took a lot out of him to get that light, and it could have got dangerous. And again, he's got to have the opportunity to try and clear his name, but it doesn't look good for him. But time will tell, won't it?
Right, Campbell, we'll leave that there now. Obviously, leave you to go and catch up with your team ahead of what I assume will be another busy day for you ahead of Saturday night. So thank you for speaking to me in ID Boxing.
Oh, nice one, mate.